think you're right. It gets to a point where you make a decision first. Do I want to sit on whatever that sum of money is, and it just I'm comfortable with that cash cow type of business, right? But then, and I think most people shouldn't do that because the moment you get comfortable, you're actually on a decline rather than actually even staying in the same place, right? So you have to always move forward.
Hello. Welcome to the Property Strategist podcast. Got your boy Goki in the building. And who else we got in the studio?
Got your boy Akin in the building.
Yep, and we got a very, very special guest, Lee Anderson in the building.
Woo!
How you doing, guys?
Welcome.
How's it going,
How's it going, first of all?
Really good.
Good. We're going to do just a quick introduction, a few lines of who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I am the owner and founder of LeBurn, which is a residential property company. So we lease residential properties and work with local authorities for various homelessness initiatives. We do emergency accommodation and a whole range of other sort of property services.
Got you.
We also buy and develop and
all that other stuff.
All the other stuff.
Good. Nice. I mean, today we basically want to kind of get to know you a little bit and kind of get to know like what you do, and obviously along the way you get some nuggets as well. Sure. Let's strip it all the way back. Let's take it all the way back to, I don't want to say growing up, I don't want to go too way back. But like, old. No, but let's say schooling days. Like, cool. Did you go down the uni route? Did you not? Like, how was that starting up?
No, so didn't go to uni. Went to sixth form, and probably at that stage, I didn't have the guidance to see the benefits of education at that time, which was definitely wrong. But at the time, I was like, oh, like, what's it going to do for me? I was in that mindset, like, what's the purpose of this, etc., and wanted to find my own path. So I didn't go to uni, and then went to sixth form. And then I went into work.
And just take it back a bit. You said you not going to uni, that was the wrong. You said
definitely
wrong advice. Why would you say? What would be your advice? And why do you think that was?
I think education is a massive thing for everyone to go down. And there's two routes, right? You can, and I think I mentioned this before. You can have education through experience. We can have education through the formal route, right? And I think there's a lot of value in getting education through the formal route, because going down the experience, you're going to get a lot of bumps and bruises, which is fine. Like, depending upon your personality type, you might be the type of individual that can deal with those things. Yeah. But at the end of it, you're going to get the same. Hopefully, if you apply yourself and you learn and so forth, you're going to apply the same. You're going to learn the same things that you could have learned just going through the fundamental education channels, right? Especially if you're talking about like business management and the fundamentals of business. For sure.
No, I hear that. And I guess with you said you went into work. What was that for you, and what did you get? What was your start?
Sorry, just leading back into education, because I do hear these topics a bit where they're like, what's the value of education?
We hear it a lot.
You hear it a lot, right? And the thing is, there's certain rooms, there's certain levels, right, of all things. So of course, I don't think if you're just attempting to get a job, there's a debate to say, do you need to have a uni degree and so forth, right? But the higher up you want to go, the more the room that you're competing with has degrees.
Okay.
And has high level degrees, right? So it just depends on the room you're trying to get into. So if you just think about the FTSE 100 or the top companies and the people that are in the leadership positions of those rooms, I'm not going to say percentage, but a high percentage of those people have got degrees or masters or doctorates, or right. So they've got something to say that they're credible.
Right.
So I think that conversation needs to be about what room are you trying to get to. If you're trying to get a job, fine. But if you're really trying to compete at the highest level, then how are you gonna stand out if everyone has it and you don't? So that's that.
I hear that, and I guess some arguments could be, someone could say, but are you sitting down there and saying, I've got this degree, I've got this master's? When you get into those rooms, like, are people asking, or just paint the picture? Why would you say it's important?
No, 'cause I think it's the route, right? If you think about the route to get to that room, right? So
okay.
if you're climbing the ladder through employment,
Got
because
you.
no one starts in that room,
Got you.
you have to go. You have to get there through. I don't know, maybe middle management,
Right.
then get into leadership positions. But every time you're going into those positions, you're having to
Show your accolades,
you have
maybe.
to, you're applying for the role,
Cool.
and you're also competing with other people.
Oh, I
Right?
see.
So then if you've got a business, right, and you need to hire a CFO, right, and that person that you're hiring, there's one person that's been working somewhere and they've got all the experience, so can do the job.
Yeah.
That's fine. But then there's another person that's got the experience, can do the job, and also has a master's in finance or something. Then there's a high chance you probably would choose that person.
Those fine margins, isn't it? And those things push you across. Yeah.
And I heard that because that's, like you rightly said, it depends what room you're trying to get into. So
right.
those kind of rooms,
100%.
definitely you need that. So how did that link to how you started working, or how you got into work? What was your first kind of role?
My first job was, I was working in the bank, just retail banking.
Yeah.
I got hired to be to become like on their fast track program to become a investment banker, but you had to start as a sort of retail banker and kind of learn the ropes. It was like supposed to be like a 6-month fast track, sort of learn a little bit about retail banking, and then you kind of excel you through with some qualifications and education into that channel. That didn't materialize because the bank restructured the way they did things. So I ended up sitting in sort of personal banking for about a year and a half, and then that was basically my first job.
Okay. And was that your kind of like how from there? What was next for you? Because again, you spoke about climbing up, and I'm sure what was next for you after that.
So I didn't climb up, right?
Okay.
So that
You
wasn't my
couldn't
journey. That wasn't my journey.
Cool.
But just in general, that is the journey. So my thing after retail banking, I still had aspirations at that time to play football.
Okay.
So I was playing football and doing a bit of that.
Where's you playing at?
I was like just semi-pro, so
Okay,
nothing like that.
Was it
pro level.
knee injury or what got you?
Not really. I mean, I had an opportunity like to go pro, and that was up north. So I had some trials. So I was living up north in Accrington in Warrington, and I was at Accrington Stanley, and then I was going back and forth on trials to various different places. But I didn't. Either way, I wasn't good. Now I know I wasn't good enough. I hear so much people with the stories of their knee and stuff. It's like you just weren't good enough. And the way I knew I weren't good enough is my friend played at a very high level. So I was able to go to the training ground, like to actually see like top like.
That's lucky. I mean, sometimes
the skills people guys are doing, like
the things that you lot think, like, because I was seen as a good player.
Okay.
But I was like, I'm miles behind the actual level. So the levels that people think that makes them good,
different.
I get you mean. Yeah.
So no, I just weren't good enough. And then I came back down to London because I was having a child, and that's when it was time to get a bit more serious.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So where was the transition, I guess, to that light bulb moment in terms of properties? Did you have a family that was in it before? Did you have any like interactions with the property world before you? Well, and if so, then what was your light bulb moment to like, I want to start a business around property?
You know what? I didn't really have a light bulb moment. I always used to have conversations with my dad from young, just not even deep conversations, just like you used to plant seeds, which is like, why not just like, there's always going to be an owner, right? So someone's got like, no matter how much someone's getting paid, someone's paying them. So why not be on that side of the conversation?
Right.
Wow, your dad was saying that.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
okay.
but not even deep conversations.
Just
like
level,
used to drop little seeds in.
Yeah.
And it just used to sit with me. So I suppose that might have created a certain mindset from young. In regards to property, no, I didn't have anyone that was in property.
Okay.
I didn't know anyone I didn't even know anyone in business.
Wow.
Really.
Okay.
So how the property conversation came about, and again, it might just be like seeds that got dropped every now and then. I used to be very close with a guy called Bernard in secondary school, and we used to go. Like his mum used to pick us up, and we used to go back to his house. And we used to chill, whatever. And and I think his grandparents might have had a bit of money,
Right.
But anyway, so he seemed to be quite used to like properties and stuff, and he used to have these big mansion books, and we used to just look at these
Look
books,
at it.
like just like £1 million houses, and we're talking, not going how old I am, but we're talking some years back, right? So those houses were massive, like £900,000 houses were massive houses, and I was like, so you just planted seeds, like, oh wow, that would be nice to have that.
Yeah.
So that was like maybe like the first connection with property. And then when I bought my first place, again, that was I was kind of, even though my dad wasn't in property, I did follow him in the sense that he bought a house for my brother, because my brother was going to university in Southampton. So he bought there with the intention to let him rent out the other rooms, so it pays for his like uni life in essence, right? So that was the plan, and I ended up just buying on the adjacent road because I thought, okay, well,
If you bought that one in that area,
You weren't even at uni. You didn't go uni anyway.
No,
so
I
you
didn't go to uni.
Yeah,
I just thought, okay, fine, and I could get a 95% mortgage at the time.
Back then.
So that's what. Yeah.
don't do that to my guy, you know. Don't do that to my guy. Guys trying to start adding up the ages. As long as you're young, bro, that's fine.
That's funny.
But yeah, so that's when you bought that property.
That's when I bought the first property.
In back then, was you just thinking, I'm just gonna rent the whole thing out? Or is it room by room, or like did you? Because this was your first property,
That was my
right?
first property. So then I thought, right, I'm going to buy this property. I'm going to do it up. I'm going to become this big property developer.
Yeah.
You know, I watched Homes and a Hammer.
Yeah,
a couple of times.
been
I
there.
know how we do this.
Yeah, light work.
So no, none of that happened. So I bought that property at the market price.
Okay.
And I probably bought it in an area that wasn't the most desirable area.
Okay.
And there wasn't much that I could do to increase the value, even if I had the money to increase the value, right? So
The house was fine, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So there wasn't much to do. So I got all of that wrong, but it rented well, and it gave me an income, which was actually quite important for later on.
Yeah.
So I think my mortgage was £300 and something, if that. And I was renting it out for £750.
Cool.
Right, so I was making £400 and something, which wasn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
But actually, it was very important for my later stages.
Okay. And I guess after that, what was next? So you got your first property. How did that kind of spiral into the property management side of things, or anything else?
Oh, that comes way later.
Okay, cool.
So the journey around property was I bought that property. How I bought that property is I was going to new build developments initially, and I was negotiating to get discounts if I acquired them in bulk.
Okay.
So then I'd package those deals.
Yeah.
And I'd give gifted deposit.
Yeah.
Legal fees, stamp duty paid, and then I would make the money from the margin.
Cool.
Right?
Sorry to cut you off, but obviously that's a drastic jump from you owning your first property. How did you get to that point whereby you even thought, okay, this is a good business opportunity for me to go to new builds and stuff like that? How did that come
I was doing that before I bought the property.
Oh, okay.
That was the first one I did.
Where did you get that? It's just something you woke up and said.
It just made sense to me.
It
just made sense.
Okay, cool. So you literally come across as like a new builder development. You're like, actually, if I can offer a discount, I'll get a discount by buying them in bulk. I can then make some money.
I think a lot of it is just like, it's business mechanics. We're talking about property, so it sounds more glamorous. It's like anything. If you buy it in bulk, you get a discount. So if I was able to get a discount, because I knew I didn't have any money to buy things at the highest price, so I need a discount. So it just made sense. Like, if I buy one, it's this price. What happens if I can get free? Will you give me a discount? And it just so happened to be yes. The funny story about that is the first deal I done. I remember I took I reserved 5, right, and we had to put a £500 deposit down for each one, right? So I was in for £2,500, and at the time that was a lot of money for me. Right, so I was in for £2,500, and I can't remember exactly how much discount I negotiated, but it was enough to be able to give the 5% deposit, 3% stamp duties, 1% legals, and I think I was making between 2 or 4% at margin.
Okay.
Right? So of each one. So I was like, oh great, this is going to be wicked. Only thing is, one, I didn't have that many people because I was quite young. So didn't know that much people that could even buy a property. But I ended up selling 2. And then so I was like, oh my gosh, how where am I gonna like,
Yeah.
how am I going to sell these other
rest,
3, right?
yeah.
And I was stressing. I'll never forget. I was stressing, couldn't sleep. I was thinking, because if I don't sell these 3, they're going to be, I'm in for like 600,000 in my head, right? Because I think it was 200,000 each.
Yeah.
So I'm in for like 600,000, like this, like how I'm bankrupt before I've even got any money. So all that is going on.
Yeah.
And then, and I remember I started avoiding their calls because they're calling me to get
wow.
updates. And I started avoiding their calls
to
because
that.
like, I don't have answers for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
How's this going to work? How this going to work? And after a while, I just thought, let me just like come clean and say like, I don't have any clients for it.
Yeah.
They could care less.
Okay.
And they could care less. They were just, and it makes sense because I cost nothing to them, and I just sold 2 properties, so I've brought to the table £500,000.
Yeah.
So they're not even seeing you as a negative. They're seeing you as
It's a massive positive.
Yeah.
But I was just naive
See, this is
to
the thing.
think that this is
a conversation that
major
goes a long
thing.
way sometimes.
Yeah.
And that taught me to like, because I did put my head into the sand and try to shy away from it, and that taught me never do that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
have
yeah,
the
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. So sometimes we fight ourselves.
We do
and make
that
up
a
scenarios
lot.
in our head, innit?
Yeah. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Especially a younger person.
Yeah, because you just don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know.
So you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose $2,500. I can't
Yeah.
lose $2,500.
Yeah.
Like,
These times you just made them
just made them £500,000.
Yeah.
Like, which makes perfect sense now when you think about it. They was like, oh, thank you. Like, welcome me into the room. I was like, what is this? Oh, I'm expecting this.
Damn.
Cool.
And just after like days of you just ignoring them calls and
Weeks.
Damn.
Weeks.
I know you just had to do was have a conversation. Then.
Yeah. So that just made me like, okay, I'll never do that again. There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
So how did you meet your first, or how do you get into, because I'm assuming was it management or rent to rent you got into as from that point of view? Because obviously at that point you're basically sourcing properties. Or did you use
from
that?
there?
Yeah, did you use that to get into sort of talking to landlords for rent to rent or management? How did that side come into it?
Oh no, so that comes.
Well, you take us on a journey. Obviously,
Okay.
I put your sourcing off-plan new builds.
Yeah.
What
Then
was the next?
Okay, so the
there?
first thing I'm sourcing
Yeah.
off plan. Then I buy the property.
Then you had properties.
Then we go into development finance.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
What does that look like?
So that's like bridging
Okay,
finance.
cool.
Right. So again, at the time, I had some good connections in the bank.
Okay.
So I was able to get slightly better rates for developers
cool.
than they could get from themselves.
Okay. Sick.
So then my name started getting
Yeah,
about around
okay.
some developers.
Okay.
So we built up a decent pipeline of business
Okay.
from there.
Okay.
And then that crashed.
Okay.
And at that point, the reason why what I was seeking at that point was I was seeking like a not a comfort blanket, but certainty of money.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I was seeking for. Right? Because when you're like an entrepreneur or whatever,
And you got money
like,
coming in dribs and drabs.
yeah.
You wanna,
So I was seeking, and I thought the banks would give me that because
Okay.
the banks, especially at the time, I had never had any experience of the banks crashing or
crashing.
not paying or any of those
fair,
things. So I was like, oh, I'm in with the banks and I'm in at a high level. This I'm going to be printing money forever. Right? So that was the reason why what I was seeking from the bridging. When that crashed in 2007, 2008, I was still in the mindset of, I need something of a surety, right? And that's where I was thinking, well, what can I do? And that's where I was like, I wonder if I can work with the local authority. And at the time, because like they should hopefully pay me, like the government should pay me.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So that was my thought
Yeah.
process, and I was like, well, how can I work with the
them,
local
yeah.
authority? And I only knew property at the time, so that's what sprung my interest to be like, okay, well, if I gave them properties, would they pay me? Is there
Guaranteed.
even a business
Right.
for that? And then I just explored it,
Okay.
and then that's how that model began to come about.
Okay.
So you actually didn't go to because usually a lot of people these days when they get into properties or management or sourcing all these things, they go to the landlords first and then they go to seek. So you went to where the demand was coming from,
Yeah,
and then you went to go find.
because I didn't know the model. I didn't know if the model worked.
Oh,
I didn't know
okay,
if the model
okay.
existed.
Oh,
The wo-
okay.
like,
It wasn't really a model then. It was just
wasn't a
more-
model
Like
then.
you're just doing business.
Yeah, so I
make
was
things work.
just like, if I can, I need to know that if I can do something, they're going to pay me.
Yeah.
So how can I have a relationship with the government? And then we just work backwards.
Okay, cool.
And then that's when we realised, like, you couldn't be a managing agent and really work with the local authority because you had to have control of the property to a certain extent. Right?
Okay.
So that's where the understanding of the terminologies and the model began to be formed,
okay,
where
okay.
I needed ownership
Okay.
or control of the
Okay,
property.
okay,
Right.
okay.
So that meant I had to be a landlord, and that means I had to lease the property. Right? So that's how that model began to unfold itself. And then from there, then you're like, oh well, how do I get them? I need to now have relationships with landlords, and that's how that begins to come about. And then again, you're just trying to create the value proposition, because why would a landlord give you property?
Absolutely.
There's no reason. Right? So then you have to be able to add value, and that's when the value proposition comes in.
Okay, cool.
What does that look like? How did you entice or add value to the properties, or how did you have landlord work with you?
So our thing was, it's always about peace of mind, right? So we're quite niche in the sense of we're giving you long-term fixed income.
Yeah.
So with that there's some premium that should come with that, right? So if someone's managing a property for 10%, but you're able to genuinely provide peace of mind over a long term, then surely that margin should be more. Right? So that's where the value proposition comes in. And then it's like, okay, well, what peace of mind are you giving, right? So, if you're renting a property, in between that, there's going to be voids, there's going to be a requirement to do up the place in between. So these are all the variables that a landlord would typically have to pay. So if you can find solutions around that, then that's where the value proposition came in. And I just work in those margins.
Yeah. And back then, how did you kind of find your landlords? What kind of routes did you take to attract landlords or platforms?
Our stuff was online. So digital marketing at the time, because again, we couldn't compete with the traditional managing agent. One, because I hadn't worked in that space, right? So I wouldn't even, I'd be on the back foot trying to compete in a space that I've never played in. But that was always a strength for me, because like I'm coming into the industry with a blank canvas. So whatever I do is innovative. And so we attacked quite heavily the online space in a time when no one was really doing it, especially in our niche.
It's true.
There was only one other, and I don't think that company even exists anymore. But online there was only one other company. So people used to call us, and our strategy was we had a number of different online websites. Loads of websites. So we didn't have one. We had
different brands,
different kind of marketing sort of
that's interesting.
Faces.
Yeah. So people would call us and they're like, we're going to call around.
They're still calling you again.
And they'll come back and call us.
Okay.
I said,
wow. Even the offers, the numbers, you can kind of move it around a little bit.
No, but we'll be honest and say like we're the number one in this space.
Okay.
Because at the time there wasn't anybody else. And there was one other company, and they wasn't really online. There was quite a big franchise estate agency that also offered guaranteed rent. So in our space there wasn't anyone really attacking the digital online marketing, so it was able to capture quite a decent market share in that space. That's how we approach it.
No, I think that's such a sick point of view, because even as a entrepreneur and understanding more what makes a good business is, it's definitely those businesses that are not competing with any others. Do you know what I mean? They're within their space, their own lane, and there isn't any really major competition. Do you know what I mean? Because what you're offering them is obviously it's guaranteed rent, but it's in a way even more guaranteed because it's come from the council, it's come from the local authority. So it's not just like us, like as individuals saying, I'm going to guarantee you that rent is coming from somewhere else. So
I get you. Yeah. We have those conversations all the time, and I think it's good. Because I wouldn't. I think it's good because it allows opportunities for people to make money. Right, the rent to rent space is an unregulated space. Really. There's no barrier into the industry. The problem with that is if the conversation is about giving someone guaranteed rent,
it needs to be guaranteed,
and your model is based on variables, then your model is fundamentally flawed because you can't give the guaranteed rent. So really we're relying on hope in that situation.
Exactly.
So that has a problem from a macro conversation
100%.
Because that means fundamentally the industry could get a bad reputation because all that really will happen is those that can't deliver either give the property back or they just disappear.
100%.
And we have an internal in-house eviction support service. So we hear that those horror stories tons from landlords that are
rent to rent,
giving the property to rent to rent, and they can't deliver.
There's a lot, definitely a lot of landlords that we've spoken to that have said, they had a bad experience, and now they're not really willing to to do it that way. Even us as landlords, if someone came up to us and said, "Oh, I want to do rent to rent with us," we'd be like, "Okay, well, we've done it before. Like, what's the guarantee? Like, are you working with a company that can guarantee to clients for the next 3 to 5 years? Their contract in place, their lease in place, or is it just that you're literally just off the road and you're saying, I've got." I mean, I'm gonna figure it out basically. So I think that's a good point, and maybe the industry needs to get a better rep by companies like yours showing, exactly what you're doing, just to show that, look, it's not just that we're getting the properties and then we're freestyling. There's actually a pipeline of clients that are already there and councils that we're working with and things like that.
I think that's probably our USP is that we was been around long enough to be able to have contracts with local authority, which gives us that sort of peace of mind. And also the way people look at guaranteed rent. So I think people go into the conversation saying, I'm having to give this person, I don't know, £2,000 a month, right? For 3 years. So they're looking at it as a £2,000 conversation. Really, that's a 72,000 conversation, right? But so then the real conversation is, do you have £72,000?
Okay.
And if you don't have £72,000, how are you guaranteeing to give that person £72,000?
That's true.
Right. So that I think when people look at it from that standpoint, and if you're being genuine on your contract, then that's the risk to you. It's not £2,000.
That's a good
if
point.
I don't have that, I can give it back.
That's a good point.
It's do I have £72,000?
That's a good point.
And that all of a sudden now, everyone starts
being quite quiet.
Crickets.
Trust you. So what I want to talk about next is obviously, you've kind of given us the timeline and the story. Like, at what point did you have to now start looking at your business or this proposition that you're giving to landlords as a business, and how did you then start implementing the systems and sort of scaling? Like, what did that look like from a practical point of view? As somebody is saying, look, I have a business. Forget property, just as a business. How do I scale this thing?
I think it's a good question. I think the first thing is, I think you're right. It gets to a point where you make a decision. First, do I want to sit on whatever that sum of money is, and it just I'm comfortable with that cash cow type of business, right? But then, and I think most people shouldn't do that, because the moment you get comfortable, you're actually on a decline rather than actually even staying in the same place, right? So you have to always move forward, but that's a separate conversation. But so then we go into, okay, well, if you're having to keep moving forward, that means you have to scale, which means you then need to begin looking at things as a business. And to do that, sorry, I lost track. You asked me, how do you do it?
Like what are the sort of practical steps you took from making just like a money to getting in from doing this thing to actually this is a business? Like, what things did you have to start putting in place and things like that?
Okay, so I think first of all you need to begin understanding the things that the moving pieces for your business, right? Cool. So the things that you're doing as a solo entrepreneur initially, in terms of answering the calls, you're doing sales, you're doing marketing, you're probably doing finance, you're dealing with complaints, you're dealing with customer service. You then need to understand that all of those are separate roles, and you need people in those roles, or you need clear automated processes. That's the first thing. And I'm very big on processes and manuals, so I write out step by step every single thing that should happen in the business. So why that's, to me, very important is when someone then comes in, I can say, this is how we operate. This is our culture. This is what we do. This is how we operate. And then also it gives them some framework, because if we stray out of that and you do it better, great, we can adapt and we can say, okay, that's actually better. If we stray out of that and it goes horribly wrong, then now all of a sudden there's a problem, because this is how we do things.
And I guess it's just not based on Lee, it's a business, so it's like the SOPs kind of allows the business to run without just
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Something could happen to you, for instance, but the business still stays there. No, that's good. And I guess, so Akin was saying, in regards to scaling up though, how did you make that happen, and how were you bringing people in, and how did you decide to kind of take it this route or this route?
In terms of
property management company.
What, personnel wise?
Personnel wise, as well as in regards to, because you guys offer different services.
Okay.
How did that all?
Okay, so that's a bit more organic, right? So again, so with us, it goes back to like what we fundamentally, or what I fundamentally believe in, right? So, but why we got into it. So the first thing was, okay, I know property, and our thing is to always help landlords along their property journey,
Right.
right? But always think innovatively in terms of providing solutions to be able to add value to the landlord along their property journey, right? So that's our core fundamentals. So off the back of that was the mindset around guaranteed rent.
Okay,
right?
cool.
It's like, okay, we want to help people in that space, but we don't know about sort of traditional letting and traditional property management. We're going to think innovatively. We're going to create that space, right? Where else can we help landlords along their journey? Right, in the worst case scenarios, they need to get their property back. Right. So can we look at an eviction support service? What does that look like? How can we assist people that's in the worst situation that they can be in? Because everything's great as a landlord until you're not getting paid. So again, that's through personal experience. So you're like, oh, that was a problem for me.
It's a real pain factor out here.
Right.
Yeah.
There's probably some other people experiencing that, especially when you get it wrong.
Yeah.
The courts don't teach you, so you just have to keep trying, or you go to the solicitors to pay big money to get it done.
For it, yeah.
Right, so then I was like, okay, well, we can help. So that was kind of how we then decided to create that service. Because our thing is, can we bring the things in-house so that then we can be innovative and add value? Right? So yes, I could partner up with a solicitor firm, for example, and now I can help with eviction service. But if that would go against our ethos about thinking about things innovatively, so it goes back to our core.
All right, then.
So that's how those things come about. And it's also about like us. We're in the service business, right? That's really what it is. Property is a service business, and services is all about how many relationships can you have? It's a relationship business.
It's 100%.
So if you just look at it practically from that standpoint, and this is how I look at it anyway. It's like, well, take away the digital world and you just talk about the real world, relationships. You want to know where people are. Let's say let's take away property. You want to connect with. I think you guys said you raise finance, right? So you want to meet people that's got money, right? So the first thing would be, well, where do these people go? Like, where are they? Like, how do you get to them? What are they interested in? Where do they frequent? Like, where do they eat? Like, how do they travel? And maybe those are the places then that you should advertise, because now you're in the places that these people are.
100%.
Right? And that's how you can begin your relationship.
100%.
So I have the exact same thought process, but just online. That's it.
Makes a lot of sense. Just to take it a little bit back a little bit, so just to make sure, you were talking about how you guys guarantee landlords rent.
Okay.
And the way you guys do that, I'm assuming, is just giving the property to local authorities, or is there other ways?
90% of it is
okay,
with local authorities.
Cool. So my question is twofold. So what's the other 10%? And also with the local authority, what would you be your advice to someone who wants to kind of get into that space? How do they
or
get
even
into
has a
it?
property themselves and wants to
Yeah.
potentially go down that route as well.
It should come to me.
That was a segue.
I'm plugging you, by the way. I was assist. I'm saying, so
Yeah, but that's actually the truth, because the contracts with the local authority that give the peace of mind, you either have to tender for. So you have to tender
process
for
is
it.
not just
There's a process.
Yeah.
You can't just call them up. And you can call them up and you can give your property to the council for sure.
Okay.
But I wouldn't do that personally, because normally that scheme is they might give you an incentive of a couple of £1,000 maybe. But then your contract is directly with the tenant, and you're reliant on the tenant to pay you.
Oh wow!
Okay.
So therefore, it removes the whole conversation about the guaranteed conversation. Right? So I don't do that. So our contracts are directly with the local authority. So we invoice the local authority, and the local authority pay us. So off the back of that, to answer your question, you need to find someone that's got the contract.
Wow.
Like us.
Yeah, right. So I thought it was something you could just do yourself, like that.
So basically,
to go to the professionals.
Chat to him.
Fair enough. And then what's the other 10%?
Traditional management.
Oh, okay, cool.
Traditional management.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you still guarantee rent doing that? Or
Not really. So we have different variations. So we might do rent guarantee, like just insurance. We had a product where we was paying landlords up front for a year. But it's all different variations to sort of traditional property management. So we look at guarantee rent as a long-term solution, and those are sort of short-term.
Amazing. And at the moment, you don't want to, but how many sort of properties are under management, or that you're doing at the moment? What's some of the numbers, high level numbers, just so we're aware of the audience?
A couple hundred.
That's
Yeah.
it, that's it, that's it, that's it.
On our guaranteed rent, we've got over 100 properties
Amazing.
on like leased properties.
Fantastic.
Is that all in London or?
No, so
Everywhere.
we've got a much higher proportion of properties on our guaranteed rent scheme in London,
Okay.
but we've got more properties outside of London
Oh,
than
okay.
inside.
Good, cool.
Okay, cool. And I think you spoke about how you guys are into development as well.
Yeah.
How did you get into that, and what does that look like? What are you doing in that space?
It's the model.
Okay.
It's the model, right? So at our core, or me personally, I'm an investor. I'm a landlord. I'm an investor, right? So all of these things are marketing funnels to that conversation. Because relationship, go back to it. It's relationship. So at the end of that relationship, people are going to want to sell their property
Right.
at some point. So we're just helping along that journey. So
Oh,
every
to the end.
property.
I love that.
pool
Yeah.
is
How you look
within-
at it,
It's
yeah.
within our ecosystem.
Yeah.
So that's how that's pretty much how that happens.
Yeah.
So someone, that is how it happens.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
relationships.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of courses that go on, and it's about like, strategies on how to buy.
Yeah.
But the magic sauce is actually being able to get in front of
100%, man. 100%.
And the thing I know is we're going to speak to over 1,000 landlords every year.
Because of what you
That's
do.
fantastic.
So
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
It's like it's that idea of it being a life cycle. And where can you come at that point? What's the touch point? The touch points you can come in at to provide a good service, deliver good value to then be able to try to transition that. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of landlords, I'm sure you find anyway, for what you do, once you help them with one thing, let's say a tenant eviction, you find out that landlord then has 25 properties, a portfolio of land on it. It's like, oh,
100%.
actually, we got these other properties. Do you mind? I'm sure you find, I don't know, you find that.
That's exactly it. It's
Yeah.
one thing leads into the other.
100%,
Right? It's
yeah.
just like if you help them, as you said, with an eviction, then at some point, well, the house now still exists. So what happens with the house? They're going to need to want to rent it or sell it. So we deliver both. So, and that's probably how we separate ourselves out from a lot of people, because solicitors ain't interested in letting their property. Or buying their property. So when we're in the conversation, we're competing against solicitor firms, we can add more value. So it goes back to the value proposition.
Yeah.
So why would you go to us to do it then? Because we can give you a complete holistic service, opposed to just doing that.
That's it, man.
Slightly off topic, but still relevant in some sort of way. I saw something online talking about when you was in Dubai and there was 17 deals on the table, then a crash happened.
Oh, that was Vegas.
Was it Vegas?
Vegas,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah. So just trying to get into your mind, first of all, what kind of deals were those back then? Was it same thing or different thing?
That was development. That's when
That
I
was
was doing
development. Okay, cool.
finance.
That's
so
what I
I was
okay.
brokering the finance deals.
So
for
it's
those.
property as well. So.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
And obviously, everything went pear-shaped. At that point.
Yeah. That's when the market crashed. That was
Cool.
when the financial crash happened. So literally all lending
Just
crashed.
seized.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it was naive from me as well, in a certain sense, because I thought that, okay, as I said, I was in banking and I thought I was going to be able to pick money
Yeah, I
all the
mean,
time.
banking, why would you feel like
Yeah.
it's going to be secure?
But where I was naive, as I thought, oh, this is crashed, this is ended.
Oh.
It's not. It didn't end. Like, it just like
That word crash is very deceiving as well.
I just thought, oh, the world's coming to an end. I can't work with banks anymore. But I could have just continued because banks still exist.
Yeah.
So it was just naivety for me, but it led me to where I am now.
Okay.
But that was definitely
Yeah.
That's
Mentally though, did that? How
I
was
was
it? At that
broke.
point? Yeah, okay, cool. Like,
start again. You have to start again.
Like how
Not
did
being
you?
around the bush, I was broke, man.
I'm sure your head must have been gone. Like,
Yeah. but I'm also quite good in that situation, like, because I'm used to being in a situation where I don't have. Cause I come from an environment not having.
Yeah.
So even though like
That's a good point.
even though like yes, I was broke. I wasn't like. It's like, all right, cool. Now let's get to
we'll
work.
move. Yeah.
So that's just normal.
Life.
Yeah, that's I didn't even like stop a stride.
You didn't feel sorry
I was
for
like, okay, what we do
yourself.
next?
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Backs against the wall.
Yeah.
And I'm actually very good in that situation. Like when I'm like, all right, cool, we need to make something happen.
Yeah.
Then we're just gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
That's just what's gonna happen. Now.
I think one thing I do like about what you're doing, and I see you guys are, I don't know, you're forming an alliance with them. I'm seeing a lot of round table chats. I'm seeing you come together with other brothers that are doing well.
Okay.
How why do you think it's important to? Why have you felt it's important to start doing that now? You've seen content where you guys come together, you, Dean Forbes, and all these things. Like, why are you guys doing that? And also, I think you're part of the Forbes group as well.
Yeah.
What do you guys do there? Like, what's the whole thing?
Good question. I'll start with the first thing,
Yeah.
which was I was finding, well, first of all, I'm a non-executive director at Forbes Family Group, right? And that's an organisation which is to help individuals from communities or disenfranchised communities, like areas that we've come from, right? So, or where I've come from.
Oh, well, we'll come from.
I didn't want to assume. Be like, no, bro.
I came from money.
That was kind of good over it. I didn't want to assume. So that's why that was set up. So a couple of years ago, I was finding that I was entering into conversations with people, and there was a big conversation. There was a topic around like black representation and us not being in certain rooms, and I was always finding myself saying, yeah, but there's loads of people in these rooms. There's loads of black people. There's loads of successful black people, and I was. Not like I was getting into heated debates with people, and they're like, "No, there's no one. Like, there's no one here."
Where?
I was like, "No, you just don't know them. They're here." No, and I was like, "All right, cool." So this conversation was consistent, right? And me and Dean was in these conversations, and there's a broad conversation, which is, of course, from a representation standpoint, maybe there's a debate to be had that we should always want more black people or in certain rooms or in certain positions, right? That should just be a general thing, whether it's 3%, 4%, 5%. Why not always want more? Right? So that conversation can just always exist. But I felt like that conversation was becoming quite negative. Like whereby we was discounting those that are there by saying there's nobody. It's like no, people have worked hard and they're there and they're successful. So what then became quite clear is, it's not necessarily about who's there, it's about who can be seen. And people aren't being seen, because if you think about just everyone, we all live in we have a habit. We have a habit, right? So most people get up, they go to the train station to go to work, and they see the same group of people all the time, right? Most people don't see their senior leadership team, so they're assuming that there's nobody there. They don't see them, right? They see the 10 people around their desk. So then it became quite apparent that it's not necessarily the conversation is not about if people is there, it's about what the people see, and therefore we need to begin maybe to help in that conversation. We need to begin showing more people in the mediums that people are actually looking at. Right? So people are looking on YouTube, people are looking on Instagram. So these people, maybe it's our responsibility slightly to say, okay, let's shine a light in the places that people are at to show that there's actually people there. So now we can't have a conversation about there's nobody there.
100%.
Look,
it's there. It's
there.
In those spaces, in those same spaces.
It's there. Like you log onto your Instagram. Okay, now you can see that this person is successful in that place. You can see that there's the power list with the top 100 most successful people. Well, that they say is the top 100 most successful people, right? And it's a mixture of men and women in high positions, so we can stop that conversation. We can say we want more, but we can't say there's no.
No, 100%. I think that's even one of the points of why we even started this stuff. You know what I mean? For us, it was a big thing to have people show people, because in our normal conversations, we're constantly in those environments. Luckily enough, like, even when we talk about funding before the show, like in terms of who funded us, it's 95% of our people, our community.
They have money.
They have money, and are older than us, that are funding us and believe in us. And it's about showing the success stories as well, and letting people see that and normalizing it. Like you said, it's not even supposed to be a thing of like, oh my god, this. It's like, no, it's just normal. Do you know what I mean? But I can get why, based on the mediums that they're seeing people in and the environments that they're in. Because a lot of people, for example, that are successful, sometimes they only go to private members clubs. And unless you're signed up to those and you're in those environments regularly, having those sorts of conversations or doing certain projects that people can then see and reach out, you might not be in those spaces. So, but I think what you guys are doing, it is fantastic. It is good, and keep going. We definitely salute you guys and be like, respect it. So thank you for coming out and not being shy about it. Because I know it's also quite hard, isn't it? Once you're successful, to want to be out there and show your face. It is kind of intimidating as well. Because,
how do you find that?
Yeah. You must get a lot of, you know what I mean? You get a lot of...
I think there's pros and cons to everything, innit? There's pros and cons to everything. But I think that so far anyway, everything's been really positive.
That's good.
Like the response or the energy's been positive from people that I've known in the past, people that I'm quite close to now, and people that I don't know. Right? So at the moment, I haven't had any negative feedback. And I think, like, what's there to be negative about?
Yeah, literally.
Because we're not trying to say, oh, we got this, we got that.
Yeah.
That's not the conversation. Who cares? Like,
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
got something.
Yeah.
So that's not the conversation, and because probably we're not doing that, I think the energy has been quite positive.
Yeah.
So hopefully that continues. So I haven't had a negative element so far.
That's good, man.
That's it.
And what is it? What are you doing now? And I'm sure you've got a lot of different things going on. And what's the plan, or what's keeping you busy now?
So what keeps me busy
Yeah.
is building the management team for LeBurn.
Okay.
So operationally, I'm not involved, but I am still the manager.
Yeah.
But I need to move away from that role
Right.
as well. So building the management team. So what we began doing was those separate divisions in LeBurn having like a head of department.
Yeah.
Right. So beginning to give people more responsibilities, and then also then build out like an overarching manager. Right? So that's one of my main things for LeBurn. We're also buying a few properties. So that takes up my time in regards to, because I still need to go through that. So that takes up my time, and we've got a few projects going on that we're doing. We're building a tech platform, a prop tech platform. So
Okay, I might come back to you, interview about that one as well next time.
yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah,
So
love to hear about
early
that.
next year we're looking to launch that.
That'd be
So I'd love to talk to you
Yeah,
guys. a bit more on
very,
that.
very interested in it.
Yeah,
so.
Oh, you?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we definitely talk on
Yeah,
that. And we've got like a big development that we're working, hoping to get planning on in Norwich, and that'll be pretty.
What is
pretty
it,
cool.
if you don't mind?
Residential? Was that more
It's a
residential?
mixed use, so we're regenerating. It's a consortium of us, and hopefully getting planning to regenerate the sort of Carrow Road area. So it's a big scheme, like a mix of hotels, commercial, residential, retail units. So
Fantastic,
quite a
man.
scheme.
So look out for that. Hopefully
Yeah,
some
yeah.
visual content we can come and get from down there.
If we get planning,
If you
Okay,
get
cool. If we get planning,
yeah,
touch
yeah,
wood.
yeah. Or when we get planning.
When we get planning.
So those are the main things.
Perfect, bro. Thank you so much for coming through. This is more of like an intro podcast.
Yep.
You'll be hanging around. You'll be about. You know,
Yeah,
we'll have a
yeah.
conversation. So, but yeah, appreciate you coming down, telling your story. Like I said, this is the first of many,
Yeah,
sure,
and we'll
sure.
continue. But yeah, for everyone that's listening, stay blessed, stay vested. Anything last words?
That's it. Take care.
Take care.
Thank
Peace.
you. Thank you.
Take care.